Testing. 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 Testing, testing. Testing. Okay, cool. Great. Amazing. Okay, hello. Since it's already till 5, let's get started. So today we will briefly talk about exams and answer questions about exams, and then we'll talk about iterations rate. And then we have another 2 topics to talk about today, which is complexity and deployment. I'm not too sure if I can finish or start deployment part because I feel like that may be too overwhelming for you. So I'll aim to finish the complexity part for today, but try to, if we have time, we can talk about deployment, but otherwise we can do it next week. Okay, so first of all, exams. It's unbelievable quick that we are only a few weeks to the final exams. Can you see the screen? All good from the back? Okay, perfect, thank you. So, the exam will be 3 hours in the CSE lab, exactly the same as COMP1531. So for some of you may know, like last time 1531 exam was a 2-hour exam, and then this time we extended that to 3 hours based on feedback. Okay, so I hope that will be plenty of time for you. The other thing, so we have talked about like 3-hour exam, we have mentioned that in week 1 already. So this one we also mentioned in week 1, I believe Henry has mentioned about the content for the exam. So we will have half for the theoretical questions and half for practical questions. So what we mean by programming or theory, so for the 50% programming questions, it will ask you to do coding, like programming, like very practical. It will be very similar to your lab questions, but much smaller in terms of size. Okay, so that's what we mean by programming questions. For the theory questions, there will be 2 parts in the theory questions. So 30% of the theory questions will be like your weekly quizzes. So the theory quizzes that you have been practicing in the past few weeks. Very similar. And we will actually have a few questions from the weekly theory quizzes. So it will be a good opportunity for you to review the questions. And another 20% of the theory questions will be short answer questions. So there may be questions asking like, what are the phases for software design life cycles? So you write some keywords or like a brief sentence. Or it may ask you like, what's the difference between static verification and dynamic verification, right? So ask you some questions and you provide a short answer to the question. It may also give you a short piece of code and ask you a few questions about the code. So this is what we mean by theoretical. So it's not that theory, but it's just not asking to write a lot of code. Yeah, question?
So it's not going to be like the quiz questions?
So 30% of, so 50% are theory, right? So 30% of the whole 100% will be quizzes, like multiple choices.
Oh, so most of the theories is going to be multiple choices?
Yes. Yes, exactly. So majority of them will be just multiple choices. Yeah, so very similar to our weekly quizzes.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you have been doing the weekly quizzes, that shouldn't be too hard for you. Okay, but there will be also a few short answer questions because there are some contents that we feel like we can't fit that into the quizzes. Yeah, it just cannot fit in, so we put it as short answer questions. But it will not ask you to write an essay, or just very briefly, just a few keywords or like some bullet points, 1 or 2 sentences, that's it. So short answer question. In terms of topics, because I got asked this question quite a lot. So any topic from the course may be covered. except for the Lab 09 deployment lab. Lab 09, so you haven't started that yet. So the lab about deployment, that practical part of the lab, will not be covered here. Okay, it's very optional, but I think it's a very interesting practice. I'll talk about that later, but it will not be covered in the exam. So it doesn't mean that deployment will not be covered in the exam. It's just that lab, the practical part of that deployment lab will not be covered in the exam. I'll explain more about that when we... Yeah, question?
I was going to say, so does that mean that Lab 09, it is or is it not?
Sorry?
Is Lab 09 marked? Does it count to that grade?
The question is, will Lab 09 be marked? Let me show you here. So Lab 09 is a normal lab. It's not a core lab. It means that will be marked theoretically, but will not count towards your final course marks. So till now, by the end of this week, you should have finished all your lab assessment that are marked towards the final marks. So by the end of this week, there are no more assessed labs anymore. Yay! I know it's quite exciting. We are almost towards the end of the term. No more marked labs after this week. Yeah, question? What happened in week 10? Okay, I'm going to talk about that, but I'll just briefly. So week 10 will still have a lab. So during that week 10 lab, that will be your iteration 3 demo and your practice exam. So during your week 10 lab, you can try the exam environment and do the practice exam paper during that lab. Question?
So there's an option to book another tutorial to do the practice exam. Is that okay? Often the things take time, the demonstrations.
The question is, so the question is about whether you can book another session for practicing the exam environment because you were concerned that the demo may take a lot of time.
Yeah.
So the answer is because the tutor will go through a demo like one group by another group. So while the other groups are doing the demo with your tutor, it's your time to do the practice exam.
Okay.
Yeah. So we don't recommend spending too much time for the demo. Try to familiarize yourself with the exam environment, because there's also one thing that we noticed from last term, that a lot of the students didn't try the practice exam and didn't try the exam environment, and they were spending a lot of time during the actual exam to learn the exam environment. So that's very time consuming. Yeah, question?
Do we only get one practice exam, or is there two, maybe three? Because you for other courses the 2 part 4, you get
yeah.
3 past papers.
Okay, so the question is how many practice exams are we getting? Because the course that you were talking about has a long history of having exams, so they have a lot of past papers. But for 1531, we don't have that many past papers. So what we are going to do is we are going to practice, we are going to give you the practice exam from last term and also a new practice exam for this term. But they are different. The exam, so based on the feedback from last term, there are a few changes to the exam. For example, last term we only had 20% for the theory and 80% for the practical questions, but this time it's different. So while you are using the past papers or previous practice exam, please be aware of those changes. So we will provide you with an up-to-date practice paper that is aligned with the exam this term. So that's the most useful one. Yeah, question?
There were a lot of complaints last time that the practice paper was way different from what was actually given, so hopefully is that being taken into account?
So the question is about the comparison between the practice exam paper and the actual exam paper. This term, the actual exam, I think, will also be more difficult than the practice exam, because what we do is we ask other courses about their experience, and the feedback that we got is it will always be the case, because mentally you will feel the actual exam is much more difficult.
Is the actual question difficulty, is it the same, or is it more harder for the actual?
Like we will always aim to make sure that they align with each other, like in terms of difficulty, that's what we aim for. But in terms of reality, what we found like from other CSE courses is always there's a gap between the difficulty. Yeah, but we aim to make sure that the difficulty align with each other, but we can't promise. Yeah, I hope you understand. Yeah, question?
Is it like, can we access like CSE machines, just like, let's say like, I don't have a lab, but I want to like run my own like little practice exam.
Yeah.
Can we like, do we have access to any of the labs, or is it like,
That's a very good question. So the question is, if you don't have time to go to the week 10 lab to like try the exam environment physically, is there any way that you can try it anyway? So the answer is, you can only do that during your week 10 lab. That is because the lab environment like should be like top security. So the CSE, so we can't give you a like login name and the password because there may be like potentials of leaking exam questions. So so during your week 10 lab, your tutors will do do things similarly as like exam invigilator. So they will ask you to please go outside of the lab room, do not come into the lab room, and then they will log each machine into the lab like the exam environment, and then ask everyone to please come in, try the environment, and then ask everyone to go out and then log out.
Oh no, I'm not asking for like the environment.
Yeah.
When I mean the environment, I mean like just like the CSE like computer. Like I know you can't like do the environment. Just, like, being able to like kind of code on like the computer.
Yeah.
Like, can we just go to any lab?
The question is, can you go to any CSE lab just to use the lab machine?
Yeah.
Yes, you can. You can for sure. Yeah, you can. No problem. Another thing that is useful is on our course website here, we also provide you with a video recording of the actual exam environment. So my suggestion is watch this video before your week 10 practice exam, so that you know what you want to spend more time exploring. So you may have some questions that it's not very clear from watching this video. So during the practice exam, you may want to spend more time like exploring how it works, where is everything, and stuff. So you have your questions before you come to the practice exam. Okay, so there's a video recording here. Okay. Yeah, question. So good question. So the question is, do we have auto tests during the exam? The answer is yes. So there will be some dry runs during the exam. But the auto marking will be slightly different from the dry runs. But using that dry run, you can make sure that there's not like fundamental problems. So the purpose of the dry run during the exam is very similar to the dry run in your project.
So that means if I pass the dry run, I can't get a full marks on that question.
We can't guarantee that. So the reason that I'm saying that, because we want to avoid hard coding. If we give you the full set of auto marks during the exam, sometimes you may hard code. Does that make sense? Yeah, question.
So for the coding questions in the exam, are we expected to do a multi-file thing, and it's going to have like we need to write up the test and we need to write up the actual code itself, and then do we need to do HTTP?
There's a lot of questions. So the question is, during the exam for the practical questions, will you be asked to write both the functions, servers, and tests? So all those parts that you mentioned will be covered, but they may not be in one question. Yeah.
So we will have to write tests.
Maybe. It's part of the course content. But how much time you have been spending during the project writing tests?
Yeah, but that's why it's like.
Yeah, like it's. But during the exam, we won't ask you to write a lot of tests. So the purpose will just to make sure that you know how to write tests. That's it. Yeah, question.
Like in 1:1 the practice exam had like topics, like the particular questions have to go for particular topics. So for the practice it was really similar. Like, so suppose question 1 is on servers. So will in the actual exam the question will also be to the servers topic. So do we have an idea of what all exact topics will be asked in the actual exam?
You are asking too much. So the question is, are you going to know exactly which question is for which topic before the exam? What do you think?
Probably not, but like,
Yeah.
question one.
Like question 1, 2 servers, question 2, 3. Like.
There will be a question about servers for sure. Yeah.
Is it like each question is going to be for a particular topic, or is it like one question could ask you for multiple stuff?
The question is, for each question, will it cover only one concept or will it cover multiple concepts for one question? We aim to try to like separate them as much as we can so that if you get correct for one question or one sub-question, like we know you understand that concept. So there may be, for example, there's a question, for example, Q1, and there's Q1.A, so part 1 of QA, part 2 of QA, part 3 of QA. So the purpose of that is to separate the questions to make sure that if you don't understand the part 2 and part 3 of the Q1, you still can get some marks for the part 1 of the Q1. Does that make sense? Yeah, question.
In the exam, will we have access to, like, say, the course website or past, like, tutorial example code?
Yeah.
Or do we have to memorize how to write off all the code with no reference?
Perfect question. So the question is, what kind of resources do you have during the exam? Do you need to memorize anything? The answer is, during the exam, you will have access to lecture slides, tutorial solutions, lab solutions.
So you just have the answers to the exam?
Yeah. So if you know where to find things, you kind of know where to find the answers for the exam. So you do not need to memorize anything. All you need to know is how to solve a problem, how to find the solution. So this is the same as last time. But a reminder that you will not have time during the exam to learn the course content. So if you think, oh, I have everything during the exam, I can just learn during the exam, that's not enough time for you to learn. You need to learn before the exam. Okay, question?
Will we have access to documentation of JavaScript and TypeScript, so like array methods and stuff?
So the question is, do you have access to documentations? Yes. So you kind of have everything. It's like open exam. Like it's like an open exam, except that you can't use AI. So the resources, the online documentations that you have access to during the exam include, for example, JavaScript documentation from MDN, HTTP, TypeScript, Jest, Express Server, Sync Request Occur, Node.js. However, please note that the interface may look a little bit different because we don't have internet access during the actual exam. What we did is we downloaded all these files from this website and put them as like HTTP files to provide you during, not HTTP, what was it? HTML, yes, HTML files during the exam. So how it looks like maybe a little bit different. So this is one thing to note while you are trying the exam environment. Please try those documentations. Question?
Is that the development environment on the computer set up for us, or like do we have to like do it ourselves?
What kind of?
Like I remember in for the project, it uses like a specific Node version, and if you use anything newer than that, it crashes and doesn't work.
The question is about the environment configuration, like the Node versions and stuff. No, you do not need to config yourself. Everything's configured for you. Yeah.
I want to. Would we need to change package.json, and also is it necessary to know how to use the Arc API client?
The question is it necessary to know how to use the Arc API client? So this is another resource that we provided for you. Do you know what is Arc API client, the REST client? Yeah, everyone knows? Okay, cool, great. So this is like an extra tool that we provide for you for debugging purpose. It will be definitely useful if you know how to use it, but it's not required or necessary to use it. Yeah, but it will be useful if you know how to use it. Sorry?
Would we also have to edit package.json?
The question is, do you also need to edit the package.json? You may need to know the basics. For example, npm install. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Packages won't be pre-installed in the server that we will have during the exam.
Sorry?
The packages won't be pre-installed.
Yes, the packages, so the question is whether the packages will be already installed or not. I need to double check. But if you know how to npm install, you should be okay.
Well, we don't need to change the script or add things in the actual file.
The question is, do we actually need to edit or change things in the package.json? I don't think so. Yeah. I don't remember we had that. Other question before we move on? Okay, so again, on the course website, you can already see a list of the resources that are provided to you during the exam environment. Check them during your week 10 lab. Question?
Whatever you're writing the code in, like are we using TigerVNC or VS Code or?
So what kind of environment, like are we using TigerVNC or VS Code? We are using CSE lab machine, which means that we are going to use TigerVNC. So if you haven't used that before, try to use it during your lab time. It doesn't need to be week 10 lab. You can try practice this week already, like TigerVNC. And the editor will be Visual Code Studio.
Right, so we have to use TigerVNC on the CSE machines? Or are you saying that we just don't want to
The
do
CSE machines are.
CSE machine as TigerVNC, yeah.
It's just a normal exam
Is it
environment, like
VNC?
1511.
Yeah, exactly as 1511 exam.
Because I feel like VNC was like you have to connect to a, so I was like confused why we're using TigerVNC.
So you are just using CSE machine.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, if that makes sense. Yeah.
So you have to VNC on the machine.
That's going to be so slow.
Yeah, I know. I was worried.
Okay. Cool. Any question online? Yeah, in terms of revision and study advice, if you have been watching lectures or like you attending lectures, perfect, you already got the lecture content. I'd also suggest review the tutorial and lab exercise because you will have access to the tutorial and lab solutions. So reviewing those content will make sure that you know where to find stuff. And we also provide you with the practice exam, and there are also some extra resources for you to practice. For example, some extra quizzes, extra practice activities. So these are extra resources for you to practice. Question?
Are there like difficult levels where we can like practice on like the hard, easy, medium, depending on our level, or is it just kind of what we just chuck at us?
So the question.
Extra resources.
So the question is about the extra resources. Are they grouped into like easy, medium, and challenging? I don't think so. They are mixed. Yeah. Cool. Any other question? Yeah, there's another question about handwritten note. Perfect. Thanks for asking. I almost skip this one. So okay, so let's go back to here. So in terms of a hurdle, there's a 40% hurdle for the exam, but this is applied after scaling. So the scaling may be scaling up, maybe scaling down, but it will rarely be scaling down. Normally it will only be scaling up if there's any scaling. Yeah, so this is one important thing, is you can bring one handwritten double-sided A4 page of notes. Yay! So extra resources for you during the exam. You cannot have everything during the exam now. So this we added this term to make sure that you feel safe during the exam. So you can prepare something can be useful for you, like individual. So everyone may have like different things that they may need to know or remember during the exam, so you can have these notes, but it has to be handwritten. So the reason that it has to be handwritten is because we from pedagogical or educational training experience is that while you are preparing for the notes, while you are actually writing the notes, you are also memorizing, you are also learning. So yeah. Question?
So do you have any recommend, because we get access to basically everything
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations for what we should add on there?
The question is because we already almost had everything, so do we have any recommendation on what to write on the? Anything that you feel like can be useful for you. Yeah, because everyone's different. Yeah, so this part was provided as a like personalization. Yeah. All good? Yeah, I hope that's something useful. Yeah. Yeah, there's a question online, can it be printed? Unfortunately, no, it has to be handwritten. Yeah, so this is to push you to learn, for learning purpose. Okay. Yeah, other things is about on-campus exam rules, practical exam rules. So we'll talk about them in week 10. So we'll again talk about exams in week 10. The reason that we are talking about exams so early in week 8, well, other courses are only talking about in week 10, is because we want to give you an early head up. So if you want to start preparing the handwritten notes or something like that, you can start preparing for them earlier. Okay, but we will talk about exams again in week 10. Another thing to have a head up is that the date for the exam for 1531 has already been released. I think it's the Friday of the exam week. Question?
Is like everyone at the same time, or is it just us?
Perfect question. So the question is everyone at the same time or are there different sessions? So for 1531 this term, there are 2 sessions, morning session and afternoon session. So you will receive an email in week 9, which is next week, ask for your preference from CSE exam. So that email will be sent from CSE exam. So they will ask you for preference, like whether you prefer morning session or afternoon session. Like from my experience, like morning session is the calmer session. Like afternoon session is where we see like students get panic and yeah, so the afternoon session I feel like is, but it's up to you, like different people have different preferences. I feel like the afternoon session is a little bit more chaotic is because a lot of people don't eat lunch. I'm not sure whether that's the reason, like you were like sugar low at the afternoon session, so you get like extra panic, you feel not good during the afternoon session. But if you eat well, sleep well, like either session should be the same, should be similar. Another thing is this is for online students because online students, they don't have in-person lab, but we want to make sure that everyone has the experience the practice exam experience. So for online student only, only online student, you can book to attend an in-person practice exam slot. So the link is on the course website here. So you can reserve or book a lab session. So this is for online students. Okay, so you can attend a lab in person. Cool. So when the practice exam paper is released, we will also share the paper here. So although you can't try the exam environment outside of CSE lab, but you can practice those questions before or after your lab sessions. So the questions will be available to you not only during your lab sessions. Okay, cool. So we'll talk more about wellness for exam in week 10. Yeah, question? Sorry?
Will the solutions for the sample exam be provided?
The question is, will the solutions for the practice exam be released? Yes. All good for the exam? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, no? All good? Yeah, question.
Sorry, what date did you say the booking will come out for the exam time?
The question is when the booking for the exam session will come out. It will be in week 9. So you will receive an email from CSE exam in week 9 asking for your preference, whether you want a morning session or afternoon session. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Yay! turn over the page. Okay, so that's everything about the exam for today. If you come up with any other questions, feel free to ask me during the break today. Okay, so now iteration 3. Yay! Why? What happened? What?
Could we get the submission time to be like 12, like midnight for like iteration 3?
So the question is, can we have the submission deadline to be 12 midnight? Unfortunately, no. This is because whenever we are very close to an iteration deadline, a lot of people are using the pipeline. Like everyone's pushing, everyone's pushing. So the pipeline is very easy to be broken. So we need to make sure that the deadline is during office hours, so that if something happens, the CSE support team can make sure that the pipeline can still function. Oh, no. So, that's a very good question about extension for iteration 3. Yes. So, for iteration 3 only, there can be late submission. So remember, for iteration 1 and 2, there's no late submission. However, for iteration 3, you can submit up to 48 hours late, however, with a little bit penalty applied every 24 hours. Yeah.
So you do the thing where it's like 0.2 like per hour. Let's say I submit 2 hours late.
No. Plan ahead. If there's just tiny little change that you want to make after the deadline, maybe a rerun is more suitable for you. But if you're making a lot of change in 24 hours, yep.
What's the penalty for reruns?
What's the penalty for the reruns? I think it's 10% each. Here's the reruns. Well, like it depends on how big the size of your change is for each rerun. Like the smallest the size, if you're just fixing very, very small typo or something in the package.json file, it should be 5%. It depends on the size of your change. Okay. Yeah, okay, so now let's go back to this spec. Who have already take a brief look of the spec? Hey, oh, wow, quite surprising. You are so good this time, like comparing with previous time, like you are so advanced. Amazing. So how do you feel about iteration 3 so far?
A lot less time.
Sorry?
A lot less time.
A lot less time? Any other thoughts?
Well, I feel like it's like a significant jump from iteration 2.
Is it? Oh, really?
Like, yeah, because we have to do like a bunch of new endpoints, but then we also have to do like a million other things.
Okay, that's interesting. Because for like, I feel like iteration 2 is the biggest jump. Because in the past you were just writing functions, right? But for iteration 2, you are writing server. Like it's a big learning jump. Like there's a lot of new things in iteration 2. So I always feel like iteration 2 is the most challenging one. But for iteration 3, like there's not much new concepts. Yeah, question.
I think like for it too, like the server stuff is not what makes it bad. I think it's the having to change everything from JavaScript to TypeScript, and then also rewriting new functions from scratch. I think I spent like maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes max per new, like actually writing server. Most of the work was done like editing the tests, editing the actual tests.
Yeah, that's a very interesting insight. So I'll just repeat that for the online. So the comment was for iteration 2, actually writing the server was okay, but that was quite time consuming for your group to like convert JavaScript into TypeScript. Yeah, that's a very interesting insight actually. I'm not sure if you remember on Tuesday's lecture when Nick was here, he talked about refactoring. Like it's very common in the world of software engineering to do refactoring. Like things change. It may be changed due to technology, maybe due to like external requirement change or something. It's very common to do refactoring. So you will see that again, you will see that quite often in industry as well. Yeah. So there's also a little bit of refactoring in iteration 3, which I will talk about. Okay, since we still have a lot of students here who haven't had a look at iteration 3, so I'll just go through the iteration 3 spec, and you can feel free to raise your hand and ask questions whenever you have questions. Okay, so iteration 3, it again builds on top of your iteration 1 and 2. So you are not starting from scratch. 2 of the roles are changing in iteration 3, which are here. So 2 of them are changing, and the other ones are just new. Okay, so let's go through the task here. You will receive feedback from your tutor this week during your demo and your lab session. You need to work on those feedback and make those changes for your iteration 3. Something new for iteration 3 is the first one. You are going to implement applying the design for maintainability concept that we taught in the lectures, which is the Tuesday NIC lecture. Do you remember any of them? Like how to write maintainable code? Yeah, which one? Anyone? Draw and keys? Yeah. What is draw and what is keys?
Don't repeat yourself, keep it simple, stupid.
Don't repeat yourself, keep it simple, stupid. Perfect. Anything else? Yeah.
Low coupling, high cohesion.
Yeah, so low coupling, high cohesion. Is that right? Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more about that today as well. Anything else? Yeah.
When are the slides for maintainability going to be released?
Oh, the question is about maintainability slides. So I've emailed Nick about the slides. So when he gets back to me, I'll upload the slides. Okay, any other criteria for writing maintainable code? This may be a question for the exam.
Actually, yes.
Hmm?
Can it be actually a question for exam?
Huh?
Can it actually be a question in the exam?
Will this actually be a question exam? Maybe. What are the other criteria for maintainable code? Anything from online? So there was one, like, don't imagine your future self will need something.
Or the eternal problem?
Yeah, you're not going to use it. Yes, and there are a few others. Okay, so in iteration 3, you can start to do some refactorings to apply those maintainability concepts. So do not aim to refactoring all of your code at once. Just whenever you are writing something new, and you keep those maintainability concepts in mind. Yeah, otherwise that would be a huge amount of work. You do not need to. Yeah.
Do we need comments? Are there marks for comments?
Are there marks for comments? So we do have marks for writing clear code. So as long as your code is clear to understand for a tutor, that will be enough. So you do not need to purposefully write a lot of comments. Okay. Cool. So the next one that is new this iteration is using exceptions to throw errors instead of returning errors in the functions you call from server.ts. What does it mean? Yeah.
We're just going to actually rewrite the error.
Yeah, rewrite some of the errors. Yeah. So why do we need to throw errors rather than just returning errors? I'll see if anyone else. Yeah.
Because in case some other function throws an error and you don't catch it at all.
Yeah, so an elegant way of knowing the errors, understanding. Yeah, anything else?
It's just like instead of you having to handle everything, like JavaScript does.
Sorry, what?
Instead of you having to handle all the errors and everything, like JavaScript kind of does it for you. You can just throw the error.
Yeah, so you don't need to handle everything yourself, right? JavaScript can handle some of them. Anything else? Like, why do we need to throw errors? So there's another thing, which is separating the logic. You keep the main logic together while putting the errors and throwing errors separately. So it's easier to read, easier to maintain. It's simpler, it's more straightforward. So this is something that we are going to do in iteration 3 as well. Again, do not aim for refactoring everything at once. Just do it slowly, one by one. Like make it smaller tasks. So this one, ensuring abstraction between the HTTP layer and the application logic layer, which means there are no references to express.js variables such as request, response, status code, or other server-specific logic in implementation functions outside of server.ts. What does that mean? Anyone from the back? Any thoughts? Yeah.
So don't pass in server variables as parameters for backend functions.
Don't passing server parameters into functions like outside of server.ts. Yes, great, perfect. That's what it means here. But why? Do you know why? Why is this important?
My gut feeling is security, but that's very vague. So
Yeah, your gut feeling is security. Yeah, but other reasons. Yeah.
Sort of low coupling thing.
Low coupling, yes. So that's one of the maintainability thing, low coupling. So it means that your functions are not calling or using a lot of parameters from the server.ts file. So it's low coupling. It's separating different things, not like this function calling that file, like everyone's calling each other. Remember that slide that Nick here. So this is the slide from last term, but I'll just use it today. But I'll get the updated slides for this term and share with you. So there was a really nice figure. Yeah, so you want to avoid something like that, right? So the functions are calling the server parameters and everyone is calling each other, so it's become really messy. What you want to achieve is something like that. Okay, cool.
Wait, sorry.
Yeah.
Wasn't this already supposed to be done in iteration 2?
Sorry?
Wasn't this supposed to be done in iteration 2? Like, for example, you weren't supposed to pass in session. You're supposed to still use the session to get the user ID and do it like that.
The question is, wasn't this supposed to have already been done in iteration 2? If you have already done it, that's perfect. Yeah, that's great. But for groups who are not doing this yet, this is something that you need to work on in your iteration 3. Cool. In terms of the new roles, like the interface, again, we provide you with a Swagger file. It looks like this. So these are the roles from iteration 2 to, okay, so these are the only 2 modified roles for iteration 3, and then we'll have a few new roles for iteration 3. Okay. So this is the same. Some of it will be auto-marked. Oh, this is new. We'll talk about that later. She's about persistent. ESLint is the same as iteration 2. Okay, coverage is something new for this iteration. We'll talk about that as well today. Structure your test files in this test folder, exactly the same as iteration 2. Again, you will get a front end. You need to power this front end using your back end, the same as iteration 2 as well. This will come back to that. Ensure correctly manage user session password in terms of authentication, authorization. We'll talk about that as well. Okay, so there are a few things we'll talk about today. Data persistence, coverage, authentication, and authorization. Great, I'll come back to those 3. Remember those 3. Okay, we'll talk about that. Okay, in terms of Git usage, this is the same as previous iterations, no change. Something new for iteration 3 is this bonus open-ended feature. We'll also talk about that today as well. This is optional, and it's bonus. So it can add maximum 10% to your project marks. Okay, so this is optional. Okay, question.
So for these bonus marks, is it split for individual contribution? Because if one person does the entire bonus,
Yeah. So the question is, what if just one group member does the entire bonus feature? Well, I will come back to that. That's a great question. Okay, in terms of running the server, exactly the same as iteration 2. Any question about that? Yeah.
In the labs, they went over like you could use npm start coverage.
Yeah.
Is there the same mode for dev? Is there run dev like coverage?
Yeah, the question is about coverage, like how do we run coverage? I will give you a demo today. Yeah, any question about here, like just running the server? No? All good. In terms of implementing and testing the features, these are exactly the same as iteration 2 as well. Make sure that you write your test, and merge, and get your team members to review. Yeah, the same, nothing new. Although nothing new, but any questions? Okay, all good. Okay, test coverage. Okay, so now I'm answering your question about how do we run coverage. What is coverage? Like, why do we need to run test coverage? Anyone from the back? What's coverage? Why do we need to run coverage? Yeah. Sorry, can you? Make sure if the entire code base is tested. Yeah, that's perfect. So this is to make sure that you are writing tests for all the functions, all the code. In case you missed some important logics in your code that are not covered by your test, and there's some bugs in that piece of code. So that's the purpose of running test coverage. So that's very, very important. Okay, so now let's have a try. Like, how do we actually get this test coverage? So I have already cloned the project here. Okay, so this is the project that I've cloned. So let's just follow the instruction in the spec to get the code coverage. Can you see my screen properly? Is that clear? Okay, great. So what it asks us to do in the spec is first, we need to run this piece of code, which is npm run start coverage. Let's copy it. Run. Great. So now server is started. Okay. And then in the second terminal, run just as usual. So we need to have another terminal to run the second command. Okay. I've got my other terminal here. Run test. So notice that just test is done here. So 2, 4, they all passed. Okay. And then let's go back to our original terminal, which is the first terminal. Let's Control C to shut this server. You will notice that there will be some data that I will be showing you here. So for example, all these files that were triggered by running the server are new equals.ts file and the server.ts file. And these are the statement coverage. Do you remember the difference between statement coverage, branch coverage, function coverage, and lines coverage? Yeah, what are they?
Branch coverage covers like your if statement, so it checks if it goes into each like branch, like if and else. And statement coverage, that's just separated by like the semicolon, right? It's kind of, you have multiple statements on line, so that's the difference in statements. And functions, how many functions that do you have are actually like being called and being tested?
Yep. Perfect. So the statement coverage is just any semicolon, each part of the semicolon. And branch coverage, this is different from Git branch. Remember that it's different from Git branch. It means that every logic branch, like for example, any if, else, whilst, loops and stuff. So any branch, that's the branch coverage. Function coverage, this is obvious, and lines coverage is the lines. And this is useful, so you can get an overall idea about your coverage percentage. However, you may want to know like how I can improve this test coverage scores, right? The percentage. Where should I add more tests for? How can I get that more details? Where can we get more details? Remember, yeah. Yes, the HTML files. So after you run this npm start coverage and the other like the npm run test, there should be a new folder that's generated automatically already, which is this coverage folder. So under this coverage folder, there's a report subfolder. Under that, there's an index.html file. So let's find it in here and open it. So here you can see more details. So for example, if we click on the server.ts file, you can get more detail like where it's not covered yet and where it's covered. So you know how you can write more tests to make sure that your code is covered by tests. Yeah, question?
I wanted to ask, to improve like the quality of our tests, you know, like there's a marking component for the quality of our tests. If we get like, if all our coverage is like at 100 for like each thing, does that mean we could get 4 marks for the quality test?
The question is, how can we get full marks for the coverage? Do we need to cover every line, every statement? In the spec, we put here, at the end of iteration 3, there's a marking formula here. So so this is the mark formula for auto marking in iteration 3. So C is the coverage, and in iteration 3 auto marking, because there are different metrics for the test coverage. So the part that is marked is the statement coverage. So statement coverage is the one that is used for this formula. And you can see that we +1 for you for the coverage coverage percentage. It means that you do not need to aim for like 100% coverage to get full marks. Like 100% coverage may be too much. You may like writing a lot of code for testing, right? So as long as you can get 99% coverage, that's already perfect. So you do not need to aim for like 100% coverage. And the coverage percentage that we care about is the statement one. Okay? Cool, let's go back to here. Any other question about coverage before we move on?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Did you say we only need 99% in the statement coverage only?
Yeah, 99% statement coverage will give you full marks for the coverage marks.
So not the branch or anything?
No, just statement coverage. Yeah. All good? Okay, since it's already 3 p.m., let's take a break for about 5 minutes. Let's come back at 3:05. Yeah.
How do you guys like quantify the quality of our tests?
How do we know the quality of your test?
Yeah, like what are the criteria?
What criteria? In the spec, there are some criteria about the test. Let me see where they are.
We don't have that. Do you not have that component because I think for iteration 1 like
Yes, because iteration 1 has a like big focus on writing tests, but from iteration 2 and 3 they are more focused on like other things. Yeah, but I think there's still some mentions about test quality. Error message. Yeah, there's not much mentioned here.
code that's about like throwing errors or like statements. Especially when you're starting off on this, is like pretty high up right now. It's actually so bad. I have the little to do for 2001. I close to do for next week. There's an actual assignment. There's a yeah. Whatever it means. It's probably the hardest stuff. Like, it is really hard. The thing is, any given team can go, like, a random player can drop 40. You know what I mean? You never know. You really don't. Like,
Where is this music from?
That's real, that's real. Yeah, exactly, that's real. I think
yeah, that's the thing that is will go for like 30 points.
They didn't
I don't know. Last game we did like trash and everyone he scored like 9 points and 9 rebounds. Everyone was like sick.
9 read now.
Yeah. You didn't even get to 10 read one. They didn't get to 10. I said double speed is 10 yesterday.
Oh.
Okay, welcome back. Welcome back. I know 5 minutes is so short. Okay, come back to the spec. So now we have talked about the text coverage. Okay, so this is an interesting one. So if you have a look at the iteration 3 rules, you may notice that we are moving to something different. So from iteration 1 and iteration 2, we were mainly focusing on, for example, user login, right? User registration, creating a quiz, deleting a quiz, get info about the quiz, or update a quiz. But for iteration 3, you will notice that we are starting to do something more exciting. We are starting a quiz, like we are starting a game. Users can actually join the game, like participate in the game and get some results, get some marks, right? So this is very exciting for iteration 3. However, like this is also a little bit more complicated. Like how do we join a game, right? Like how can we trigger a user to join a game? How does the user notice the game that is ready to join? Like when do we show the users the results, like the correct answers for the quizzes? Like when can the users get all the results for all the quizzes? Right? Like how? How's the process? So to help you understand the process of the games, we are giving you this one, the state diagram. State diagram. Do you remember state diagram? Yeah. When did we talk about state diagram? When we were talking about conceptual modeling, right? What is conceptual modeling? Why do we need it? Why state diagram? What's the difference between state diagram and other conceptual models? Yay!
It describes the behavior of your system.
Yeah, so state diagram is the type of conceptual model that describes the process, the behavior of a system. So this is why this is perfect for describing the game process. Like what are the states of the game? Like ready to start, already started, finished. So these are the different states of a game. And then there are some behaviors, like users join the game, users finish a game. So these are the actions that trigger the shifts of the state of the system from one to the other and to the other. Right? So state diagram is perfect for this purpose. So you can find this state diagram here on this mirror board. I'll show it here. Okay. So this is the state diagram for the games. So you can see that, okay, another question. What are the three components for state diagrams? What are three components for state diagrams? Anyone else? Hey, exam questions here. What are the components of state diagrams? I'm just joking, it's not a real exam question. Okay, you say the first one.
We'll get the components of state diagrams.
Yeah.
Or like the actual states themselves.
The actual states themselves. Yep, another one.
The transition.
The transitions, one more. The actions trigger those transitions, right? Perfect. So you can see that those blocks, those are the states, the actual states of the game. For example, this state means that the question is on countdown, the question is open, question closed, final result stage, answer shown stage, end stage, lobby stage, right? And all these arrows means the transitions between different states. Like lobby can transit to end, question countdown can transit to question open, Okay, but how do we transit from question countdown to question open? There needs to be an action. What action is it? Skip countdown or wait for 3 seconds. So these are the actions that can trigger this transition from the question countdown state to the question open state. Okay, question here. Let me think of a question. Yeah, question?
I have a question. I thought like state that like for conceptual modeling we shouldn't ever have like a permanent like end state. Like it should be continuous. So how come we can't?
The question is, why do we have an end state here? So your assumption was there shouldn't be an end state in a state diagram. Any thoughts from? Yeah.
Because here we can always just create new quizzes, like we're never going to reuse a quiz.
Yeah, a game can be finished. So there's an end state. The game just closed. There's no more actions. Yeah, question.
So, what would be like practical? Like, what's the product? Can't you just go back to the start? Yeah, should it like, well, if you have an end state, what does that mean?
Should I be just going back to the start?
If you get to the end, then you go back to the start, no? But if there's no way to go to the start from the end,
Yeah, there's no way to affect it long.
yeah.
Because when we were talking, something smart was like.
Yeah. Thoughts.
It's like every instance of the game never gets reused. It's just used once. It's like the part.
It's like a session.
Oh, then we delete the session.
Does that make sense?
So state diagrams don't have to reflect the entire program, but like one part of it.
So the question is whether state diagram needs to represent the whole process or just part of it. It depends.
So
Yeah.
So in this case, it's just like just a session. So
Yeah, just a game, just one game.
Oh, so it's not like the overall like the whole model. It's just like a portion of it.
Yeah. Another question? Okay, so I have a question here. What are the potential states after answer shown? What are the potential state after answer shown? Answer shown state. You say the first one.
Question countdown.
Sorry, what?
Question countdown.
Question countdown. Yep, that's one.
Moving to the end.
Go straight to the end. That's another one.
Then you find what results.
Final results. Yep. So these are the 3 potential next state after answer shown. But different actions trigger different state, starting from like answer shown. Okay. So this is to help you understand this diagram. But you may have other questions, like what does lobby mean, right? What does question open mean? What do you mean by, for example, wait for 3 seconds or next second, or what does it mean? Where do you get these answers? You can go back to the project spec. Here are the explanations of the diagram, like the states, the transitions, which is the actions. So you can get the definition of those in the spec here. So for example, the lobby state means that the players can join in this state and nothing started yet. So you can get those definitions for the state. And for the actions, for example, next question means move on to the countdown for the next question. Okay, so you may notice, well, there are so many mentions about countdown, like countdown, 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 countdown. Like, how does it actually work in our project? Like, how can we have a countdown for them?
Probably like you have a certain time limit, and you find a date now, and you say, okay, when the date is equal to that plus the time limit, it's done.
Like, set a time limits.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, so we use a package
Uh-huh.
to schedule a state updating function in the future.
We can use a package from NPM. Yeah.
Isn't there one pre-built already?
Huh?
because that comes already when you install like TypeScript or JavaScript. There's a timer.
Is there a timer in JavaScript library?
No, I'm saying isn't there already like a package pre-installed? Like you know how you have the normal methods like isn't there one for like set time or set
Is there a set time or something like that? Okay, so here's the library that you can use. We have a recommendation in the spec next section, a note on timer, like how do we use timers. So there are a few popular NPM packages, for example, set timeout, that you can set like, for example, 12 seconds, then timeout. Okay, you can set like 30 seconds, then timeout. And you can also clear timeout. It means that, for example, if you set a 30 seconds, then timeout, you can clear it before 30 seconds. Okay, so there are quite popular used ones. However, from our previous term, we noticed that those two timeout library is very hard for debugging. So the course created a new library for this course purpose, which is called downtimer. But how it's used is very similar to this one and this one, but it's just easier for debugging. I'll quickly show it in NPM library. Okay, so I'll give you a quick demo on it, but you can explore more how to use it. So similarly as how we install other packages, we npm install downtimer. Okay, I'll go here. Npm install downtimer. Great, so this is not installed. How do we check whether it is installed properly? We go to package.json. You can see that there's a new dependency added now here, which is the downtimer. And in this downtimer documentation, there's also an example usage, like how do you actually use it? So I'll just copy the example here and I'll show you how it works. I'll create a new file called timer1.ts. I'll pass the code here. Okay. I'll just demo how it works first, and then I will explain the code line by line. Okay. So, how to run a TS code? We are going back to the basics. Yeah. npx_tsc. TXX? Right? Is that right? Is that right, everyone? Everyone, is that right? Okay. Followed by.
Oh, I have a question. What is npx? It's just node package execute. What does that mean?
Like the difference between npx and npm. npm is more used for installing something new, while npx is more for executing a file.
What's between that node?
Huh?
Why can't I just do node?
Why can't we just use node? Node is for running JS file.
Also, node can't run TypeScript.
No.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Remember that TypeScript code is something built on top of JavaScript code, right? You need to compile it. So you need to compile TypeScript code into JavaScript, and then you can node the JS file. You can't node TypeScript file. Yeah, does that make sense? Your question?
But how come you can npm t for like testing and then you can't npm tsx?
Oh, why you can npm t? Yes, any thoughts from the audience? Why can we npm t? Yeah.
Is it because npm t is like a script?
Yes, because there's a script that you define yourself.
I think it runs.
Yeah, this is a script here.
Oh, so you could make like our own script.
Yeah, you can.
So if I make like a script for the run and make it npx tsx, and just do npm within the script.
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
So if I make a script, I can use npm to run the TypeScript file.
Can you add a script to use npm to run the TypeScript file? Yes, you can. Okay, let's do this one. Timer1.ts. Nothing happens. Okay, so it's hard to show it here, but what I can do is I can put in a server so it will work properly. Okay. Oh, I already had it here. Okay, cool, great. So you don't have it in your iteration 3 code because I added here. Okay, so I added a timer example. So this is a post request at the URL which is delayed job, and I set a timer and schedule it to finish in 12 seconds. And after 12 seconds, the action that to be done is console log this 12 seconds later. Let me show you how it works. How do we run this server.ts file? Huh? npm? Yeah. npm run? npm, what was that? Suddenly my brain. npm start, right? Or run dev. Which one do you prefer? Run dev. Okay, no problem. Okay, the server is started. Okay, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Please, come on. Please console log.
Is it because you haven't actually made a request?
Oh yes, my bad. Okay, so how can we debug this? How can we actually see? I really want to see this.
You can make a request through the direct punching, through the. I forgot how to do it, but
I will just do the easier way. I will use API client, the REST client. Yeah, is that okay?
Yeah.
Where's my client?
If you have a test file, you can just do it with the test file. Because the test file will call the function.
I want to use this one so that I can also show you how to use that. But my client is not responding to me. I'll restart that. Come on. My API client. My API client. Come on, come on, come on. Why are you not responding to me? No, I want to use this one. I really want to use it. Huh? Do you know how to use this API client? Not really.
You just take the port 3200.
Yeah.
The 127 basically.
How can I show you this one? I want to show you this one. Okay, my API client is not responding. I'll figure out another way to show you that. Okay, I'll do in this way instead. I'll write another piece of code. I'm not doing this one. I'm making it simplified. Okay, and then start it once. Start. I'll call it timer. Start a timer. So now I'm creating a function called start timer. And then I want to call this timer function to start the timer. Okay, start it. Okay, I'll delete this part. Is that right? I'll comment it first. I'll not cancel it yet. Okay, just simplify it. So now I'm going to schedule a timer called start timer, and I'm going to console log, say HL here, something like that, npxtsx, and the file name is called timer1.ts. Let me see if it works. Please work. Yeah, HL here. So this is only after 2 seconds. I'm only triggering it once. Okay. So I'm creating a timer using this npm library from down timer. So I'm creating this timer, but I haven't defined like how long this timer is, like whether it's 10 seconds, 12 seconds. How do we do that? We can use timer.schedule and then give it a length. Like now it's just 2 seconds. I can make it like, for example, 5 seconds. And the action is here, which I'm only console logging HL here. That's it. Okay, and then I'll start this timer. And after 5 seconds, it should console log HL here. I'll try it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 5. I'm too quick. Okay, so this is how it works. So this is how you can set a timer. For example, in the state diagram, you can see that otherwise wait for 3 seconds. If skip countdown is not triggered, but after 3 seconds, you should still open the question. Okay. Yeah, question.
So, is this part of the backend?
Yeah.
Moving question counter and question open. We don't have to wait for a call to do that. Or like, yeah.
So the question is this happening at the back end? We don't need a call to trigger this action. All you need is a timer, but this can also be triggered by skipping countdown. If the action is the user skip countdown, we don't need to wait for the countdown. Yep.
Isn't it like won't timers just run on their own? Like let's say in our test file, like if we start a question countdown in a different test, won't the timers still be kind of running on their own? Like how do we clear the time?
Great question. How do we clear the timers? Yeah, so there's an example in the npm library here about how you can cancel a scheduled timer. You can use timers.clear timer ID. But how do you get this timer ID? You can get the timer ID when you are defining or scheduling this timer. So for example, let's go back up to here. So what you can do is you can return ID. Then you can get the ID when you start this timer. Yeah.
Would you suggest like maybe having a section in your Java store, like just for like a timer ID, so that it's easy to keep track?
The question is, do we need like having the timer IDs in the data store? It's up to your design. Yeah. Other question about timer? Oh, there's some comments about the audio. How's the audio now? Is it better? Online, sleep audio better? How is it? How's the... So this is how you can clear the timer. So this is, we are returning ID. So you can use timer clear ID. Yep, we are returning ID. Yep. Why is it? Yeah, this is ID. Yeah. ID? No, I don't know.
Can you assert it like as time? Can you just type assert it like ID as time
ID as, oh, that's a good one. Timer ID. I don't have a timer ID.
No, it's an inherent type of the library. Like if you see that on the code, when you write ID, it's just like when you write like ID.
ID?
And then you float over it, like if you press
Huh?
If you float over it, like with your cursor, like
Yeah.
like and float over the function, it tells you expect a certain like time. Like if you float over the clear,
Clear.
like if you float over clear, like not on ID but like on clear, like on yeah, it'll tell you that it's expecting a certain size time.
Okay, needs to be timer ID. Oh,
You just assert it as time.
nice. Okay, I'll just leave it like that. I don't want to be too confusing. I feel like it's already very confusing. Okay, cool. So, but anyway, this is how you can clear a timer. For example, the user use this skip countdown, and then you need to trigger that clear that timer. Okay. All good. Okay, let's go back to the spec. Okay, cool. In terms of error raising and separation of concerns, I feel like we have been working on this for quite a long time. But in this spec, we also provide you a new way of doing this, which is the custom to_error class for you to use. So there's an example in the spec. There's a new file called here, to_error.ts. So this is an example of how you can use customized error, customized exception. But this is 100% optional, so you are not required to use it. You can just use the normal, traditional, the basic exceptions, and that will be enough. But if you want to try something new, feel free to do it. We are not going to spend too much time talking about that today. Another thing new in iteration 3 is about they are also saying the audio is not very good. How is it now? It's weird. I'll put it here instead. Okay, another thing new in iteration 3 is about persistence. Do you know how to make your data or your project persistent? No. Okay. So in the lectures week, let me have a look. We talked about persistence in week 5. So it's a long time ago. So it's okay that you forgot some of it, no problem. But the basic idea of making it persistent, like what does persistent mean? Yeah.
It's still there after the server downtime.
Yeah. So it means that the data is still there when you restart the server. But how can we achieve that?
Store it to a file.
Store it to a file. Okay, perfect. So normally we store it to JSON file. So that's the easiest way to store data. It's called file-based database. So if you haven't done any like database courses, file-based storage is the easiest way to achieve persistence. And the way to do it is to write your data to a JSON file whenever your data is changed or you have some new data. And then when you restart the server, you read the data from the JSON file so that data is not lost. How do you read and write to JSON file? Let me show you the slides from week 5. Week 5, persistence. Oh, they don't have it in the slides. But I'll show you an example here. Exam project, where is it? Is it here? Persistence. Yeah. Did you see this example in the lecture with Shawin? Like the book library example? Have you seen that before? Yeah, you have seen that. Yeah, so this is the example that you can visit again about persistence. Just to see how to use it, you use the middleware first, like express.json middleware. And you may have your like data object, maybe the user or the game or the quiz data, whether it's an object, an array, it's up to your like data design. And when you want to read from the JSON file, the one that you used was, where is it? Okay, this is how you write to it. Is it the one? No, not this one. Here, this is the right one. Okay, so this is how you write to the JSON file. So you use fs write file sync. So there's a library that you need to use, which is called fs. Is for the file system. And to write to this file, you use fs write file sync. And to read from this file, you use fs read file sync. So this is how you can make your data persistent. You read from the file, you write to that file. So if you are not too sure about how to do it, revisit the lecture from week 5 about persistence, especially this book library example. Okay, that's very helpful. Cool. Great, let's go back to the project. Another thing new in iteration 3 is about safer user game and the secure password. So in week 7, I think you learned about the hashing, right? Like the like authentication, authorization. So we do not require you to implement hashing in your project. So this is optional. So the way that you can make it safe, like some kind of safe, not super safe, is to use like random user session IDs. So for some group, you may already have done this for your iteration 2, like using random ID. So it's pretty chill for you since you have already done it. Okay. Scoring and ranking, this is just how we calculate the scores, the ranks for the final results. So we are not going to talk too much about that, just how you implement that. Okay, now let's talk about open-ended features. So there are 2 parts in the open-ended features, part A and part B. So part A is about using APIs. So for example, last time we saw some very amazing examples, like open-ended feature, very interesting. So some group, they used some large language model APIs. So they create quizzes using large model, or they create hints for those quizzes by calling large language model APIs. Very interesting implementation. And we also had some groups who did like visualization of the quizzes and stuff. So very interesting. Yeah, question?
So if it's 10%, like what is that broken into? Like, is that like an impact? Or what do you get?
Yeah, so because it's 10%, how do we know, like, how do we? So if you want to get full marks for the open-ended features, you may want to try both of them. So both part A and part B. Unless you have like one part like doing super good, then one part is enough. Okay. Yeah, so this is about the APIs, but there are other APIs that you can use. For example, the trivia question API, or you can add like Vida API. This is all very mature APIs, like well-designed, developed, like widely used, very mature APIs that you can use. Or you can have, for example, geolocations, like you can show the participants' countries using, like, for example, this API. And you can also generate some GIFs, like some images, figures, very interesting, like interactive features. And you can also have codes and other, but these are just examples, so you can choose whatever you like. Yeah.
Are we required to store our API tokens securely?
The question is, are we required to store the API tokens securely? Of course, yes.
No plain text in the
We don't want to make it too complicated. So what you can do is you don't put your token in the project submission, but you can somehow email the course account. I don't know. Yeah. We don't recommend using any fee-paying APIs, like OpenAI's API is very expensive. Yeah. So these listed ones, they are all free.
Oh, okay. Easy.
Yeah. If you want to use large APIs, you can use some free models, which do not require any tokens. Yep.
So could we like have the feature all ready to go when we submit it, and then the demo just put an API key and so show them, okay, this is how it works.
So do we need to have all the features ready to go?
So like, because if we have an API key, right, and we just put in plain code, like that's probably not good. So we make sure it's ready to go and everything works. It just doesn't have the API key. And then when it comes to the project demo, can we just put an API key to show that it works?
Yes, you can. For the OpenAI features, you are not going to demo it during your iteration 3 demo. So OpenAI features are not marked by your tutor. So there's a group of specific tutors who are marking all open-ended features. This is to make sure that the marks are consistent across the course, like different groups. So there's a specific group of people who are marking it. So the way that you are submitting your features is that you are going to first in this file, like OpenMD file. So this is a file called OpenMD in your iteration 3. So you need to document your feature, like what this feature does, like why do you have this feature, right? Why do you think this feature make your project more interesting, users more engaged or more useful, like why do you have it? And then you will also need to submit a video recording. And then the markers, the group of tutors will watch this video recording. So you are not demonstrating to your tutors during iteration 3. Yeah. Cool.
So how would you recommend having that API key?
I don't recommend using any fee-paying APIs. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so part A is about APIs. Part B, what you can do is you can play with files, like file systems or multi-user elements. So how about we have collaborative quizzes where multiple users can work together to answer the questions, right? Or how we can download the game results or like you can export that to beautiful PDFs. So last time we saw some groups who generate PDFs at the end of the games. Very interesting, like visualization, like graphs, figures, results, leaderboards. So this is also something that you can consider doing. Cool. Yeah. So I'll come back. I'm coming back to your question at the beginning about contributions. So what if only one group member is doing the whole bonus feature? So since this is optional, we also understand within groups there are more advanced students and less advanced students. So some students may prefer, I just want to focus preparing for the exam. I don't want to work on this bonus feature. So for this bonus feature, you can decide who is contributing to it. So I think there's some documentation here. So you may select to work on this feature independently, just by one person. It's not a group project anymore. Or you can work with some or all of your team members. So you can based on discussions within the team. Yeah.
So if only you work on it, only you get the marks?
Yes.
Can you all do your own features and all just get your own marks?
Just to make sure that there's no overlap.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want them to be. So the way that you are submitting it is here in this open.md file. We will ask for who are the contributors for this bonus feature, and all the people listed here should have substantial contribution to this feature. Yeah, question.
So let's say your whole group decides to do it as a group.
Yeah.
And then, so does that mean individually you receive less contribution?
No.
Less multiple?
No, the expectation will be higher because more people are contributing to it. Yeah.
And then what about like, let's say, can everyone just do their own special feature? Because since it's kind of multi-division, can everyone just decide? Okay,
well, it's up to your group's decision. But I feel like if everyone's doing it, why don't you just do it together and make a big feature? Yeah.
So like the number of people who work on the feature is taken into consideration?
Yes. The number of contributors to the feature is taken into consideration,
So,
yes.
If there's one, there would be more.
Yeah, so for one person, we won't expect you to do a lot because just one person. Does that make sense? Yeah. Cool. So we also have an estimate of hours that you may need to spend to get the marks for the bonus features. I think it's 20 hours. Let me double check.
20 additional hours.
20.
Additional or included in this, like total work on relation to?
One student.
Oh.
Yeah. Here. If you like high marks in this section, you should expect to spend at least 20 hours on your open-ended features.
Is that 20 hours just one person, or is that 20
Yeah, one person. So that's a lot of work. So you need to carefully consider whether you want to do it or not. But this 20 hours is for when you want to get full marks or like very high marks. But if you just want to get, for example, 5% of it, right, it's different. And then if you, for example, if you want to get full marks for this bonus feature, you need to demonstrate some knowledge that you learned outside of the course content. So this bonus feature is for high achieving, exceptional, like excellent, the HDHD student. It's not for everyone. Yeah. So you need to make the decision whether you want to work on this bonus feature or you want to spend more time preparing for the exam. Okay? It's just providing an opportunity for the high achieving student if you want to try something amazing. Yeah.
Can you lose marks if the feature's terrible?
Can you lose mark if the feature? No, you won't because it's bonus anyway. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Any question about the bonus features or anything about iteration 3? Just a reminder that the test coverage is very important for your auto marks in iteration 3. And this is something new as well, because there's a, like that. Yeah, statement coverage. But it's very important to your marks. Okay. All good? Any other question? Oh my god, we spent so much time for iteration 3. Okay, now let's move on. We don't have time to talk about deployment, so let's talk about complexity. Have you heard about software complexity before? Yes? Somehow? Where did you hear about it? Tuesday, right? So Nick mentioned briefly about complexity. Is that right? So why does it matter? Like, why do we need to talk about software complexity? Yeah?
Is that tied to maintainability?
For maintainability, yes. So if your software is super complex, it means potentially it's very hard to maintain. Right? So this is why we care about software complexity. But how do we measure software complexity? Right? So how do we know that software is more complex than the other one? And how do we know, well, this is too complex, we need to simplify it? And how do we know, okay, this is not too complex, like we can move on? How can we know that? So this is what we are talking about today. So this is from a very famous paper a long time ago, and people are still using this to talk about complexity. So it defines that there are two different types of software complexity. One is called essential complexity, and the other one is called accidental complexity. For the essential complexity, it means that the complexity is inherent to the problem itself. It's just a very complex problem. Right? The users make a lot of requirements. Oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, and you need to do this to this perfect way, or you need to do that in a specific way. Like the problem itself is complex. And the other type of complexity is called accidental complexity. Like it's not inherent to the problem itself. It's more about the design decision made your software complex. Okay, so these are the two types of complexity in your softwares. So for essential complexity, like fundamentally it just cannot be removed because the users required that. Or it's from, like, for example, this software is for legal things, or it has a lot of requirement like about privacy and stuff. So this kind of complexity cannot be removed. Like this software has to be very, very private because, for example, it's about health, about like insurance, about money for banking. So this kind of complexity cannot be removed. However, this kind of complexity may be able to manage with good software design. On the other hand, there are also like accidental complexity that can be somewhat mitigated by engineering decisions. For example, you can have smart use of libraries, like you can use NPM libraries, rather than writing complex code yourself. Okay, so these are design decisions that you can make. But on the meanwhile, it's also very hard to remove entirely, like 100%. So there are a lot of things in software engineering that we can't do perfectly, but we can just do whatever we can. Okay. Okay, here's a quiz. Since we want to remove, like, lower the workload for everyone, so we are not having any, like, theory quizzes anymore. So I'm inviting those quizzes in these lectures. So you do not need to submit anything more. But let's do these quizzes during the lectures. Okay, so according to Fred Brooks' No Silver Bullet paper, like the famous paper that I just mentioned, which of the following best describes essential complexity? Essential complexity. I will give you 1 or 2 minutes. Anyone pick A? B, C, D. So we have no A's, a lot of B's, 1 C, no D, and some gave up. Okay, so let's have a look at B and C. B said that complexity inherent to the problem domain itself. C said complexity caused by programming languages. Okay, so people who chose B. Why B? Yeah.
I'd say like complexity because the programming language can somehow be solved.
Uh.
But if it's domain, then it's sort of a domain problem which would be out of our reach to solve. That's why it should be B, not C.
Okay. Who chose C? You? Why C?
I just think it's being it's like C is encompassed under B, I feel like. Because it's like if a programming language doesn't let you do something, you just gotta work around it. You can't, like, if there's no function or there's no like a way to do something in a certain way, then you just gotta go around it.
We need a debate.
That adds complexity, but you can't avoid it, so it's essential. It doesn't mean B isn't the answer. B is the answer, but C is also part of the answer after that.
You feel like C is something cannot be solved.
It's like, I mean, it's kind of like essential complexity, if that makes sense. You just gotta do it.
What did you say?
No, I'm saying, I get what you're saying. Like, for example, let's say you have a great question, and like it's just finding the max. In like JavaScript, for example, that would be like very easy to solve. But in like C, you require more like lines of code.
So I'll repeat that for online. So what the audience is saying is that B is correct, but I feel like C is also correct because, for example, programming, like C programming, is just much more complicated than JavaScript. But this can be solved, right? You can just choose JavaScript. This is decisions you can make, right? Like for example, when we are doing like backend development, some people use Python, someone use JavaScript, some other people use the other ones. You can choose which programming language that you use can better fit for that problem.
I was more thinking of it from like a 153 perspective.
Yeah, like if you're going to use TypeScript and JavaScript, so we don't have anything around.
Yeah, if I'm doing the exam.
Okay, so you are talking about in the exam we can't use Python, we can only use JavaScript. Oh, that's too.
Like if you have a restriction.
Yeah, what do you think?
The problem, not of specifically the programming
Fair
language.
Oh, there you go. That's why I said C is like after like it's a subset of B.
Like you're not forced. The problem forces you to use a specific language.
Exactly.
Is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, it's like like sometimes, for example, like if there's a problem where I need low-level control, like C, right? C has its own complexities now.
Yeah.
But I also need C for the problem.
Uh-huh.
So it's like,
Yeah, just the right programming language for the right problem. Maybe.
like even you kind of go out. I mean, like if I need C because it's low-level control, but now all of a sudden I have to do a million other stuff that I might not necessarily need to do with JavaScript, but I still need C.
Okay.
Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
Am I saying that correctly?
Like if we really want to say it, it can be true.
So I'm doing like some like high frequency trades. I C or like C++, right?
Yeah.
But using C and C++ creates other complexities
Yeah.
as well.
Uh-huh.
And so that's kind of inherent to the problem.
I feel like if the question would define what setting we're in, that would also like, because if you say that you're given a problem in a specific language to use, then yes, B and C both are correct. But if you're like actually like working, then B is correct.
So let me make it in this way. So essential complexity is more about the problem domain, not about like how we solve the problem. Like the programming language is more about like how we solve the problem, not about the problem. For example, if we ask the software to have like privacy considerations or performance, so these are about the problem or the domain. But like how we solve the problem, like which programming language we choose, or whether other people ask us to choose that programming language, these are all about like how we solve the problem.
So complexities, it doesn't really care about how you do it, it's just about what you're doing.
Essential complexity is the complexity that more about the problem itself. But accidental complexity is something that is not inherent to the problem.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, since we don't have time anymore, so let's finish up here. So next Tuesday, I'm just thinking how we are going to do this. Because the reason I'm struggling is because I invited someone from Germany to give a short talk next week, and they are talking about like more international viewpoint of software engineering and the trend in software engineering. But it's more related to requirement engineering that we are talking about next week. So I need to figure out a way like how we can finish this complexity lecture next week. But I'll figure that out. Okay, thank you so much everyone. Looking forward to see you. Yeah, quick. Huh? B is right, yes. Yes, B is right. Hey, hello.